we've made a whole bunch of iOS games that have gotten a lot of downloads. But what I want to talk to you about today is a little bit more than just the company. I want to talk to you about the philosophy that got us to that point that we are now. Where did we go? Like, when I was a student in high school, what did I do to help me prepare for the journey that would lead me to starting the founder and losing software to be successful? So I'm particularly excited to talk here because I also went to college for festival district. I was across town at Tyler. You need a mic? Oh, I do. Yeah. Right. So there you go. Okay. Can you guys hear me better? No. All right. So anyway, yeah. So I'm excited for.
Mic is not on.
Is it not
There's
on?
a switch. There may be.
There we go. Is that any better?
No.
Check for the mute.
It's on mute.
It might be.
Well, you don't use the mic. Don't use the mic. Just yell. There's something over here. Hello, test test. No mic. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, so let's start over. So I'm excited to be here, and at Pally, one of the things that I did was I like to do a lot of kind of computer stuff in my spare time. I was a big gamer, but on the other side, I was also very creative. I really like to make websites, and I played a lot with the program called Adobe Photoshop, which I'm sure you've all heard of. And the other thing that I did was really cool is that I had the opportunity to work with my dad at a little startup doing some electronic publishing stuff. And so I was designing websites for them and doing a lot of their brochures, things like that. But what was really cool about it is that in exchange for the work that I did for them, they bought me some really, really expensive software. So one of the things that they bought me was 3D Studio Max, and then of course a license to Adobe Photoshop. And these are things I could never afford because it's like thousands of dollars to get a license to 3D Studio. So this basically became my hobby. I was making 3D graphics and making websites. And as I mentioned, I like to play games. And one of the big parts of playing games is you've got to build a really, really sweet gaming rig. And so I spent lots of summers building computers, putting in the fastest video cards, putting in the fastest chips. And this is something I did with all my friends. And we were thinking, let's do something interesting with these computers we're building. Let's try putting Linux on it. And this is something that was really hot back in '99. It was a free operating system. Everybody wanted to try it. And we figured, hey, let's put it on our computers. But nobody actually wanted to do it because we were thinking, well, if we put Linux on our computers, we're going to ruin everything, and we're not going to have Windows to be able to actually play any games. So what we thought is, well, maybe a lot of other people also have this problem, trying to put Linux on their computers. Maybe we can give them a solution. And so what we thought is, hey, let's take a computer and try to build it as cheaply as we can. Let's sell it for $299. And this was back when computers were like thousands of dollars. And we were like, hey, let's do it. So in the summer, we got a bunch of friends together. We ordered a lot of parts, talked to a lot of suppliers, tried to get everything as low as we could. And we started building computers. And this really, really took off. We got a lot of press because it's like, hey, there are these 17-year-old kids that are building computers. And it was really easy to start shifting these things around. And people started actually ordering them. We were surprised. And so we started building them. We started getting lots and lots of orders. So we ended up spending all night long screwing in circuit boards and cutting our fingers. But it was really exciting at the same time. And this is something that taught me an important lesson that was really important to me as an entrepreneur, and that's that it's really, really exciting when somebody gives you money for something that you've built. It's really different from getting a paycheck that's like, hey, good work, you worked here for 2 weeks, here's the money you get. No, it's like this computer that you built, we're actually going to give you $300 of our hard-earned money for it. And this was really, really addictive. This type of thing, I was like, wow, this is way more exciting than any sort of paycheck. So this sort of laid the groundwork for my entrepreneurial career. The next thing I did the next summer was I worked at a startup. It was called There. And they built a virtual world. It was like a virtual hangout. And what There was this like sort of tiki-themed environment. And you could go and hang out with your friends, do kinds of things like play paintball. And I was involved in the art team. So I got to try all that 3D Studio Max stuff that I mentioned earlier. But I got to do it with real artists and people that had actually worked on games before. And that was really exciting because it gave me this opportunity to be in this really cool office, lots of really zany, creative people. I mean, it showed me that you can actually be creative at work. It doesn't have to be this boring thing where you sit in a cubicle all day. Sorry about that slide. That's his UCSD. So after I finished at Pally, I drove the long, long road down I-5 all the way down to San Diego. And that's where I studied computer science. I knew that I wanted to be a computer scientist, but I also knew that I needed to study and really brush up my programming in order to actually be able to do anything. So while I was at UCSD, I learned a lot of things, and a lot of them were really relevant to things that I was interested in. I learned a lot of linear algebra. I learned something called OpenGL, which is really core to programming graphics. And of course, a whole lot of C++, which is key to high-performance computing. I liked it so much that I decided to stick around for grad school. So I spent 3 more years there. And I was studying really graphics specifically. So I learned a lot of techniques like how do you animate characters with skeletons and how do you do that in a program. Things like ray tracing. For example, learning to cast shadows and do refractions and reflections and things like that, simulating all this in the computer using math. And also how to do texture mapping, how to apply materials to objects. All of these things you can see were really, really important for what I would eventually do, which was games. Now, while I was at UCSD, something really interesting happened. After I graduated, Apple released a very interesting device. And this changed my life forever. This is the iPhone, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I wanted to show this to everyone. I was like, oh my God, check this out. You can see maps no matter where you are in the world. Oh my gosh, I can call my friend just by tapping his name. You know, the idea of feature phones was prehistoric to me after I'd seen the iPhone. And I wanted to do something with the iPhone, but I couldn't. Not until Apple released the software development kit. And at this point, everything took off for me. I was like, wow, this is really cool. I know how to program. Let's try playing around with it. So the first thing I did, I was like, let's do a simple game that uses some of the features of the phone. You guys have all probably heard of the ball and cup. So I was like, well, let's use the motion sensor, and let's build a game where you can toss a ball, catch it in a cup. And this was a pretty good idea. Unfortunately, I had two friends who were also doing the same thing, and they were doing a better game, tower defense game. And this is based on the sort of tower defense principle where you've got enemies that are trying to go from one side of the screen to the other, and you need to stop them by building defenses. So I saw their game, and I was like, wow, this game is really, really fun, but gosh, it's really ugly. I know how to help you. I can do graphics. So together, for 6 months, on the weekends and in our spare time, we built our first game, and it was called Tower Madness. And we didn't do this because we wanted to make the next big hot startup or because we wanted to make a lot of money. We just did it because it was really fun. I modeled some really cute sheep, some cute aliens, and the idea was that the aliens are coming to abduct the sheep, and you've got to build defenses to stop them. We built a lot of maps, a lot of technologies, and we got to use all of that OpenGL stuff that I learned in school. Now, what was interesting is that we were also the first people to do this. We were in the first big 3D games on the platform. And because of that, Apple took attention, and they gave us a whole lot of promotion. What ended up happening is we started out with kind of a little bit of downloads, you can see at the bottom. And Apple was helping us. We were making about thousands of users. And what got interesting was when we decided to make the game free. And that's the first big jump you see in the middle. And when we went from paid to free, we ended up going from thousands of users to millions of users. And then we were starting to get really famous. We won a whole bunch of awards for that game. And we went on to continue sort of building the company. We were thinking about, well, how do we make money off of these people that aren't playing our game, and not paying for our game? So we ended up starting to sell them things. We were thinking, well, let's give them some weapons. We could sell them a flamethrower, and we'll sell it to them for 99 cents. So at this point, we're like, well, let's just see what happens. I don't know if anybody will really buy it. We sold 200,000 of these in the first month. That was crazy. And we were like, holy cow, we're arms dealers now. So we followed up with the next logical thing, which was landmines. We actually had a business at this point. We were making real serious money. We knew that our lives had the potential to change forever and that we'd never have to actually work a job for a paycheck ever again. So we took the money, we grew the team. We hired professional artists, we hired professional animators, we hired professional sound people. And we started going from kind of the clunky art that I was doing to actually really serious character art from people who had worked on consoles, worked on real video games before. Something else that we did is we started brainstorming games. And we thought of games that we wanted to play. One summer we were sort of sitting around talking about, hey, remember that really cool level in Call of Duty Modern Combat where you get to fly the AC-130 and defend soldiers? Well, what if we did that with zombies? Wouldn't that be cool? So we did it. And we thought, hey, let's just take this joke and put it on the story and let's see what happens. So again, 6 more months, a little bit of hard work, we built Zombie Gunship. And we didn't really know what happened when we launched Zombie Gunship, but when we finally built this game about this little AC-130 shooting zombies from the sky, it became the #1 grossing game in the world. We were making more money than Angry Birds. At this point, we knew, wow, we're onto something really big. And this was the real crux that, hey, we'd gone so far, we'd built this company, we have the right people, we can actually build stuff that people really want to play, and lots of people are going to play them. This is a little bit of Zombie Gunship. You can see some screenshots. We spent a lot of time looking at Afghanistan footage, Iraq War footage, trying to get that grainy look from the night vision displays. And we also added a lot of kind of cool game elements, things that we learned in the previous games that we'd done. When we built Nuts, we did a lot of selling items and doing things to upgrade your character. And we did the same thing in Zombie Gunship, and it really worked out. And we also sold coins to players that wanted to play for free but might want to pay a little bit later. Oops. So what advice do I have for entrepreneurs? What kinds of things do I have to tell you that'll help you do what I did? Well, I think the biggest thing about being an entrepreneur is exactly what this boy is doing. It's diving into the unknown. It's about taking things that you're afraid of of doing, and instead of avoiding them, diving in headlong. A lot of it is about taking meetings with people you've never spoken to, scary things like talking to the media or talking to investors, talking to CEOs of big companies, and having them ask you questions like, are you thinking about M&A and wondering if that's a kind of candy? What ends up happening is that, the first time you do it, it's really hard. You screw up. You ask stupid questions, you give stupid answers. But the second time, you get a little bit better. And the third time, you're actually starting to come off as a professional. And that's how you learn. There's no school that can ever teach you how to do this. You just have to take the jump and do it yourself. Another big thing is something I mentioned earlier, which is the whole idea of paycheck versus making money from customers. And I found this to be the biggest driver for me. Not the money itself, but the fact that you've built something so important that people are willing to fork over their cash for it. And the other bit that was really interesting is I talked to a lot of people and asked them, why aren't you doing a startup? This is such a cool thing to do. You get to be your own boss. You get to run things the way you want to run it. And they told me something interesting. They said, I don't want to be in a startup because I want to feel safe. I want to have a safe paycheck that comes back to me every 2 weeks. But the reality is that in the Valley today, there is no safety. There are huge layoffs happening all the time. Companies like, I have a list here. So HP, first of all, they announced a giant ring of layoffs for the next couple of years as a part of their downstructuring process. I think they're going to go down 27,000 jobs. And also Cisco, they announced last year a huge layoff of about 10,000 people. And before that, Yahoo laid off a whole bunch of people. So this idea that you have this secure job, this secure paycheck, someone else is going to decide that, hey, you're out of the company and that you don't make any more money. The beauty of being in a startup is that you control your own destiny. If the company doesn't do well, you have the opportunity to fix it. The last bit is, when do I start a startup? How do I know when I know enough? And the real answer is that you need to do it as soon as possible. The idea in startups, we have this saying, it's called fail early and fail often. And the sooner you fail, the sooner you know what you did wrong, and the sooner you'll do it better the second time you try. The more opportunities you have to test your skills as an entrepreneur, the better off you'll be. The other bit that's interesting is that when you're in high school, you have something that's very, very rare. You already have investors, and those investors are your parents. They're already paying for your housing, they're paying for your food, they're paying for your clothes. All your bills, all your expenses are already taken care of. So the real secret is that if you have a company and you're in high school, you can never go out of business because you don't need money. You don't have to pay rent, you don't have to pay for anything. So you can do anything you want. You can take as many risks as you want to take. And even when you go to college, you have the same type of thing. You've already got financial stuff taken care of. Either your parents are paying or you have loans, but you're already here, and you're surrounded by people that have the same ideas, probably in the same field, and they also want to start companies with you. You have tremendous resources. You have professors to help you out. The idea is that you should do it as soon as possible. I hear tons of people saying, oh, I'll do it after I graduate from high school, or I'll do it after college, or I'll do it after I know enough programming, or I'll do it after I get my business degree. Pretty soon it's like, oh, I'll do it after I retire, and they never do it. The idea is to start as soon as possible, and you shouldn't be afraid of failure. And the last bit I want to share with you is this quote that's very meaningful to me. And it's make work play, and you'll be playing all your life. And what this really means to me is you should build your life the way you want to live it. Have a job that you really enjoy. And for me, what that really meant was, I wanted to be inside a very creative environment. I didn't want to be in a cubicle underneath fluorescent lights toiling for some evil boss. I wanted to be able to do whatever I felt like whenever I wanted to do it. And most importantly, I wanted to be able to take naps at 2 p.m. just if I felt like it. It's all about building the life that you want to live, and I hope you choose to do that someday. Thank you. I think I have time for a few questions. Yes?
If you want to learn programming, what's a good first language to learn?
I think you can start with anything. I know people that start with Java. I know people that start with C. Some people jump all the way into C++. And there's so many tools now online. I mean, everything you could possibly need to know to start a company is already on the internet. I think we're living in a really unique time. Just because, and apart from knowledge, I mean, web hosting is now basically free. The startup costs for any sort of technology idea have become so low. And even when there are costs, now you have things like Kickstarter, where you can, if you have an idea and you really need $10,000 for some reason, you can get tons and tons of people to come and pitch the money, and you can start. So there's no knowledge barrier, there's no money barrier. I think now is really just the best time to start. Lots of resources, tons of tutorials online. But yeah, I do like Java and C++, especially for games. Yes?
As the CEO, what input do you have in each of the apps? Because I'm guessing that you probably have other people doing this stuff.
So I guess I didn't talk too much about Limbic, but Limbic is really small. We're only about, people that work every day are about 6, 7 people. So we're all involved in all aspects of designing games. I do a lot of game design, I write programming, I still even do some of the art. So I have a lot of input. We have daily meetings where everybody gets to share. It's very democratic. It's a very open, creative process. So I'm very involved in the game design, and I would never really have it any other way. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.